All right, let's just get right into it. We all know what motivation feels like, right? It's that spark. But what happens when it fades? Because, let's be honest, it always does. Well, this whole explainer, it's about what comes next. It's the machinery that turns that little spark into real, actual success. Think of it as a blueprint for discipline, one that's built on all the hard work you do when absolutely no one is watching. So let's just start with maybe the most important question you can ask yourself. Who are you when nobody's watching? Seriously. Not the you on social media, not the you in that work meeting. I mean, who are you when the doors are closed and it's just you and your choices? Because that person and what that person does, well, that's who you're really becoming. And that leads us perfectly into our first section here. Who are you in the dark? You got to think of this as the forge. It's the place where your real character, your actual skills, and your entire future are hammered into shape, far away from any likes or applause. Now, when we say working in the dark, it's not about being some secretive person. No. It's about being so obsessed, so in love with the process itself, the reps in the gym, the hours of research, the endless practice, that you do it just for the sake of doing it. The reward, the validation, it comes from the work itself, not from someone patting you on the back. And this quote, man, it just nails it. That explosive success that everyone sees on the outside, it's not magic. It's a direct result of all those quiet, unseen hours that nobody ever knew about. It really is that simple. It's the cause and effect of greatness. Okay, so loving the process is huge, for sure. But showing up every single day, that's a whole different ballgame. And that's what this next section is all about. It's about that internal fight we all have, right? The clash between how you feel in the moment and that unstoppable engine we call discipline. So think about this as two different operating systems for your life. On the left, you've got the one that relies on feelings. You're always waiting for motivation to strike. You only work when you feel inspired. And the results? Totally inconsistent. But look at the right, the discipline OS. This one creates its own momentum. It doesn't care if you're in the mood. The work just gets done. And the best part? When things get hard, that's not a sign to quit. That's a signal to go even harder. And this right here, this is the absolute core truth of discipline. Look, your feelings are temporary. They are awful guides for anything long-term. Real commitment is about doing the thing you said you were going to do long after the mood you set it in has completely vanished. That's it. That's the difference between the amateurs and the pros. Okay, so let's say you've got this down. You're working in the dark. You've installed discipline as your operating system. So what's next? Well, now you aim even higher. We're not just talking about winning anymore. We're talking about developing a mindset of total, absolute dominance. And this path, it's a very deliberate climb. It all starts with you making a conscious choice to just stop settling for average. From there, you push yourself from good to great. But here's the key. You don't stop there. The final, brutal push is from great all the way to phenomenal. And that's a level most people never reach simply because they decided the climb was over. And this is where it all ties together, you see? The dominance that everyone witnesses under the bright lights, that's just the final product. It's the direct result of the domination that happened in practice, in the dark, when nobody else was around. You dominate the little things at 3 a.m. so you can dominate the big things when the whole world is watching. And hey, don't think this is just for athletes. This mindset, I didn't want to just do well, I wanted to dominate, that applies to everything. We're talking about your business, your finances, your personal goals. It's a whole philosophy for life, not just a game plan for one project. All right, I know what you might be thinking. This all sounds great in theory, but what about the biggest enemy of all this stuff? What about procrastination? Well, this next section is all about the cure, a simple, powerful, and honestly pretty aggressive way to deal with it. Think about it. That book you've been meaning to write, it's not going to write itself, is it?
Those fitness goals you have? Yeah, those weights aren't going to move themselves.
And that game-changing idea you had, it's not going to execute itself. It needs you. So here it is, the cure. And it's a massive mindset shift. The second you feel that hesitation, that little voice that says, I'll do it later, that is your signal to get hyper-aggressive. You don't negotiate with it. You don't plan to do it in 5 minutes. You initiate action. Right then, immediately. That's the entire strategy right there. You don't try to outthink procrastination. You just overwhelm it with immediate action. You kill it by starting. You just go.
And that brings us to our final part. And honestly, it's the most important. Why does any of this actually matter? Because the clock is ticking for all of us. This is about understanding the incredible, profound urgency of right now.
You'll often hear this number, 120%. And you might wonder, why not just 100? Well, because 100%, that's just doing your job. That's the bare minimum. That's what's expected. That extra 20%, that's where the magic happens. That's where you create the gap between you and literally everyone else. It's the effort that makes sure you leave absolutely nothing on the table.
And here's the ultimate why behind that extra 20%. This isn't a dress rehearsal. This is it. Life gives you one opportunity, a really short window to go after your biggest goals. And trust me, that window is often way shorter than you think. Every single moment you waste, it's gone forever.
So, I'll just leave you with this final question to think about. When it's all said and done, and you look back on your life, is just enough going to be, well, enough for you? Or are you going to be glad you found that extra gear, glad you put in the work in the dark, and demanded nothing less than dominance from yourself? So ask yourself, was 100% really enough?